everybody, so we are back on the John Deere 318. Now, on the previous segments of this video, which I'll put a playlist in the description if you want to check it out, we have redone quite a bit of wiring that the previous owner kind of did himself. We got that going back. We did a little bit of work, replaced the fuel pump, replaced the starter, which was also bad, and replaced the starter relay. Also replaced the key ignition switch, and the new one ended up being faulty as well. So where we're going to start, we're going to go ahead and put the new key ignition switch in, which we got from Stins. We did get this thing running on brake cleaner, but not on actual fuel itself. So then we're going to tear into the carburetor and see if we can get this thing running. And we're going to have the conversation of why I've changed my mind on this thing and what the new plan is. Step one, let's see if this new ignition switch actually works. Probably ought to hook a battery to it. We got the battery sitting down here because I had to pull the battery tray to get to all the wiring. Nothing blew up. That's always good. So that's a good sign. Let's go ahead and get the switch installed where it belongs. Yeah, actually, that's too optimistic. Let's just leave it right there for now. And let's tear into this carburetor. Let's see if we're actually getting fuel through the pump and into this line. And if we're getting fuel that far, then we'll take this cap off and we'll start getting things cleaned out in there. Definitely getting fuel up through the filter and out that line. So we know we are good to there. Get that slid back on. We'll clean this off just a little bit before we separate it. These are a pain in the butt to take these all the way off. You have to take the intake off, which means you have to take these shrouds off. You also have to take the exhaust off to get the intake off, to get to the bolts in the bottom. But I can take this cap off the top to gain a little bit of access, and I should be able to access the float and everything from the top of this as well. So we can take a look at that. There's a chance there's an issue with the needle, and that's why the fuel's not getting through. Oh man, yeah, she's a mess down in there. I can't see it well yet, but let me get this float out. Needle valve is going to be right there. I need to be real careful not to drop anything down the carburetor. Yep, like that. I think I can still get that. Looks bad in there. But take a gander. Down yander. Quite a bit of dirt and trash down in there. Let's see if we can fish that needle up. There we go. I'll take this back off. Let's just start from the beginning. Alright, so I got this cleaned up in there pretty good. All the gunk and debris is out, and I cleaned this up a little bit. I didn't get too crazy. Got most of it off and then backflowed everything. That should be the main jet coming in. And you're going to see some come out right there and then come out down. Oh, straw down. And if I cover it, it comes out that main jet at the bottom, which is good. Let's put the carb back together and see if we can get her to run a little bit. Where'd the gasket go? Right here. You know what I just did? You guys saw it. Probably ought to put these in there too. It's gonna need the float and the needle. Crucial to the operation, some might say. The needle just hangs on there like so. Gotta be a little careful we don't drop it down in there. In the wrong spot. Now we got it. And like that. getting gas, and it's definitely coming up through there. It's pulling good. The odds that 2 switches are bad in a row are pretty low. Not impossible, but pretty low. With the new switch, I'm not getting power to the coil again, so I'm not getting any sparking. Should be lighting up right here. That's what goes to the coil, and I've got nothing. I made that little homemade jumper last time. Oh, there it is. That should probably be attached to something, huh? It's pretty possible it pulled out whenever I moved the engine. I don't know the best way or how hard it is just to pull this tray off so we can actually take a gander. Probably not too bad. See, I think this is supposed to be attached. Okay, that's broke. Looks like it's gonna be a pretty common fitting though. You have to get one of those ordered. This fitting here got broke. It went from there down to there, the drive shaft spinning around, smacking. It's not great for it. The transmission filter right there also got beat up pretty good, which is not a terrible thing because probably need to change that anyway. See if I can get that fitting off there the rest of the way so we can get it out and get a new one coming. It's worse than I thought. That whole line's trashed. It looks like that whole line's trashed in there. I'll show you when I get it out. Things are not going well, which is great. I love that. That's great. There it goes. Where'd the ratchet go? Did you guys take it? Oh, I dropped it. Little line sockets. Remember I got these from Dave from Sassafras Valley Woodwork, sent these to me. Still using them. They're just handy. Crow's foot, whatever. It doesn't matter what you call it, really. As long as you know what the person's talking about. Daggone it, I'm stuck again. So it went like this. JIC, and then the O-ring boss went into the actual valve block. Or, yeah, that's right. This line here, we're gonna take that off and pull it out. Now the question is, how the heck do we get this thing out of here? I don't know. Looks like we gotta take this whole pan off to get that line out of there, and it's all held on by flathead screws. So that's cool, man. That's just neat. That's great. These should come out really easily. What? There we go. Oh, sure. Got a bracket. Looks like we got this fella right here. I'd say that's a 10. No, I was wrong. 3/8? Oh, 3/8 it is. Little bracket. And then what? Then what happens? There we go. All right. Let's just put this back up here so we don't lose it. Let me show you what got damaged from that drive shaft not being attached. That got all beat in, and then when I was taking this loose, it was twisting pretty bad. Now, it's not all the way through yet, but it wouldn't take much more for it to be. Normally, on my stuff, I'd probably just look the other way and ignore that, but I do plan on selling this, so I want to get it right. The other thing I noticed, which made me want to take it off, is it's already got one repair on it there. And I did get a new used choke cable because this one's all chewed up. Normally once that lamination comes up there, that allows that coil to separate, so it kind of affects it just a little bit. So I got another one. Let's swap it out real quick, and then we'll finish getting these bolts in for the shrouds. And then maybe we'll work on the wiring for the PTO just a little bit. Everything else on this tractor, you gotta take 27 things off to get where you need to be. That one just feels a lot smoother than the other one did too. The other one had quite a bit of resistance to it. Very nice. I think I'm going to leave this panel off because I want to redo his wiring on these PTO switches. And this gives me pretty good access to it. Slide that in here. So he had redone all that PTO stuff, I'm assuming to eliminate the PTO safety. Here's everything that comes down off here. It's electronic, it's got electronic clutch up here on the front side of the engine. So we're going to just redo all this. You know, it's always a good time when you see this style electrical connector. That's how you know they really put the effort in. And listen, I'm not telling you it's going to be professional, but it's going to be a professional hack job, and that's about as good as I get. So we're going to start right here, where both of these have been rubbed by the pulley. We're going to take this harness apart, add some heat shrink across there to get the protection they need, heat shrink it again, and then add some more protection across that as well. Let's pull those out, like so. There we go. The rustier the blade, the better. That's what I always say. There we go. Should work for that okay. So I got the battery hooked up and the test light and both switches on. I'm trying to figure out what he's got going where. Coming out of the switch. And we got a light. I don't know if it's showing up or not for you. Which means there's power going into the switch, and this is the power coming out of the switch that should go to wherever it should go. But I don't know where that is. So he took this switch, wired it directly into the battery, and then this ran down and operated the clutch on the front, not the one that's supposed to. So I've got most of that wiring done and kind of secured how I want it. We got a little bit more to do, but before we secure it all the way, off this blue wire with the switch on, which it is, you should have power. Can you see the light? Ah, yeah. Well, something's working in there. I don't know if it's working right, but something's happening. I guess I could just physically turn it too. All right, so here's off, which should be correct. And here's on, which is turning the whole engine. So it feels like it's working like it's supposed to. Excuse me. Tidy up that wiring real quick. I'll show you what that looks like when it's all said and done. Then we're going to work on the fuel system just a little bit, get those panels back on, see if we can't take her for a drive without the seat. Without the seat, it'll be fine. She sounds pretty decent. Pretty fancy seat. I brought it over here so we could pressure wash it off and get her all cleaned up. But she seems to run pretty good. Neutral doesn't seem like it's a thing, but I'm thinking that's going to be a linkage adjustment more than it is anything. I got to do a little bit of research on it. It's always a good feeling, that first drive, whenever you take something that wasn't running and you find all these problems that weren't supposed to be there. You figure them out, then you take her for a spin. That's a good feeling. What do you say, boss? All right. Go ahead and kill the master there. Yeah, that'll be fine. That thing cleaned up pretty good. Not bad at all, really. Not bad at all. Just picked up some fresh gas. The next thing I want to do is get this running off its own tank. We're going to take these lines one at a time, make sure they're clean and clear. Do the same thing on the other one. The gas actually doesn't look terrible in here. I'm just going to add some good clean gas to it as well. We'll put some mechanic in a bottle in that, and then we'll see if we can get it hooked back up and if it'll pull itself. We're lucky where we're at. It's a boating community right on the river. A lot of motorcycles come through too. So all the stations down here sell the good ethanol-free stuff, which is fantastic for these little small engines. It'll take a little bit to pull gas all the way through that, but should be able to. The other thing I need to do is it's not choking closed all the way. I need to adjust my choke cable. See how when I go to choke it, it doesn't quite choke it enough. So I'm going to take the cable and slide it that way. It's just not wanting to. It's like there's something sticking on this part of the mechanism. It's almost like there's something sticking on this part. Because even if I pull it as hard as I can pull it, that's all that it closes. It should close down more like that. Guy's about rolled away on me. It's running off the tank, that's neat. But it's not, maybe that's all the choke it needs. I mean, it pulled it up through there. Might have to do some research on that part. She's pulling gas from the tank and running though, so that's good. I need to figure out what's going on with the creeping part of this here. I'll take this back over to the barn now that we got everything kind of cleaned up and pressure washed. I need to take this panel off to adjust that linkage or see what's going on, which means I got to put that panel back on that side to support everything. But we'll just drive her back to where the tools are. All right, let's take the panel off on this side and take a better look at that linkage. And then we'll have a discussion of why we're going to sell this thing and what we're going to ask for it. I already know what I want to ask for it. I don't know if this little piece is supposed to be there or not. A little chunk of metal wedged in there. I don't know if that's the problem, but if it's preventing something from coming free when it's supposed to come free, it could be. Let's try to get that out of there. There we go. Oh! Oh, we got all kinds of movement now. That little fellow there was definitely doing some goofy things. Did you see the brakes release and everything? I don't know if that was the main cause of the issue, but it was definitely an issue. Let me snug this back up, throw the battery on. Maybe spray some lube in there too, huh? So there is in fact a linkage right there for that, and there's a place for adjustment. I think we went the wrong way. Just move over here. Probably go the other way. Seems pretty good there. I'm going to lock it down in place. That should be that. So here's the deal. Right now, as is, she's for sale. You can take home this gem of a John Deere 318. It's actually got pretty good bones. Everything seems okay frame-wise. There's some surface rust on all the panels, but all the panels are there. A little bit of primer and paint. I think you could have a pretty clean looking machine. The biggest thing cosmetically is the fiberglass on that hood, and I'll show you here in a second just so you remember exactly what I'm talking about. But my plan for that was just get some fiberglass resin, fiberglass those brackets back on where they were before they came off, and I think that would work. I don't know for sure if that would work, but that was my plan on how to fix it. As far as running, seems to run fine. I don't know how accurate the hour meter is, but it shows 1,500 hours. You got a new battery, new starter relay, new fuel pump, new spark plugs, and new spark plug wires. So they're starting out pretty decent. It does need the hydraulic lines. The good news is I found them on eBay. It looks like you could get the single line for 50 bucks, or you could buy every line on this machine for a little over 100, which is probably what I would go with if I were going to do it, because I would probably rip another one off in the future, and that's a pretty good price for a bunch of hard lines. And then you need that little valve block too, which I think you could find out online fairly easy. It might actually be in that bundle of all those hydraulic lines if you look close enough. So it needs a few things. It needs that new filter down there too. That price does come with a new oil filter and the oil and a new air cleaner as well, because I ordered that stuff. We are going to try to problem solve this little ignition switch before we finish out this video. I think I know what we can do to get that working, and we'll throw the PTO on with the engine on just to make sure that clutch actually engages, so at least you know what you got there. The whole reason I'm selling this rig, I got distracted, hold on. The whole reason I'm selling this rig is I'm trying to do a new thing. Listen, self-realization, whatever you want to call it, it's a big step in life. I'm pretty excited about this, but I've got too many projects. And I went ahead and made myself a deal. If I want to start another project, I either have to get rid of one or finish one. And another project, which I think is going to be more beneficial to the property, has presented itself for less of a cost than what this thing's going to be, and I'm going to go with that. So this is going to be on the road. I'm selling it, 600 bucks. That's a pretty good price in my opinion, especially with all the new parts for a running John Deere 318. If you want the mower deck, you can have it. Remember, the mower deck junk though, it's just scrap steel. The plow I'm going to keep for another project, so I'm not going to sell that. But 600 bucks for a running 318, I don't think that's too bad. You've got a good start with some good bones, in my personal opinion. That is not a money back guarantee though. Don't come back to me saying you're not happy with it. I made a whole video covering everything on here. You know what you're getting. All you gotta do is email me, captaincleeman1@gmail.com, and we'll figure out a time where you can come down here or come up here, wherever you're coming from, and pick it up. Might even throw in some stickers too. I got a few of those. And here's that huge disclaimer I want to put in there. You saw the wiring. He has every safety. There's no safety on the PTO. There's no neutral safety. There's no safety on the brakes. There's no safety on the seat. The only safety left is the oil pressure switch. That's the only safety that's still in operation. Solid PTO engage in the front, so that is good. And I'm also going to show you, it does have the mule drive for the front as well. These are the brackets I'm talking about on that hood. See where that fiberglass separated? See where it separated there? So that was my plan. Take those off, fiberglass resin back on. Maybe have to drill and tap them, but I think the hood's fixable with a little bit of ingenuity. This is the power coming in. That's the exciter wire. Nothing, and then when you turn it on to start it, that continuity does work. Now when it's in the on position without being in the momentary, I should still have power. I don't. And I should get it when I hit that, which I do, which makes sense because like we showed, it does kick the starter over. But it doesn't give me power to the coil. I'm not getting any spark with it, which is why it won't run off the key. Very wild too. But odds are low that two different ignition switches from two different manufacturers are both going to be faulty when you get them. But apparently, not impossible. Wild. Absolutely wild. 3 wires for the win. So I guess you are going to need an ignition switch as well. Probably ought to buy a couple from a couple different companies, because that's... So there you go, random part, John Deere 318. PTO works, runs, transmission seems to works fine. Here's the thing, I've only ran it to the house and back. I don't even have an hour on it. I don't know what the inside of that engine looks like. I never put a compression tester on it. I don't know what kind of compression it has. Starts, runs, you know what I know at this point. If you want it, email me, captaincleeman1@gmail.com, and I'll for certain sell it to you. And like I said, I'll throw a couple stickers in and things like that too if you want it. Ignition switch, hydraulic lines, new filter, the one that got beat up down there underneath. I don't know, you do what you want to it. If you do want it, tell me if you want the panels on or panels off. I'll leave them off for now, because if you want to paint it, no point in putting them back on. But if you want them on, I'll slap them back on. Doesn't make a difference to me. Stay tuned to the channel, because we have some things that, confirmed by my wife, are Are you sure about that? And it seems a little crazy kind of stuff coming up. It's a good time. I'm absolutely unsure about some of the decisions we've made in the past couple weeks, so I'm very curious to see how this all turns out. It's gonna be wild.